Live from a back room at the WNBA Draft. Howard Megdal here with Isabel, Rodrigues, Jackie Powell. A lot went down tonight, and we are live here in New York to tell you all about it. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win. Good!
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Everyone, and happy early Tuesday, because it is still Monday night. I am Howard Megdal, founder and editor of The Next. Delighted to be bringing you a special jam-packed from New York 2023 WNBA Draft edition of Locked On Women's Basketball. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Of course, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube, you can see our smiling faces, or you can listen on the audio only as well. And of course, as you can see here, as you can see every day, it is not just me. It is our entire incredible team over at The Next. Go to thenexthoops.com, $9 a month, $72 a year. You guys, we had 25 reported pieces from Dallas and the Final Four alone, from our 10 people on site. We are covering the game the way it desperately needs to be covered. Please come support that work. And so the three of us are here to talk about what was a remarkable night. So we're going to start with first impressions. And Jackie, I want to start with you. Your initial, just when you kind of close your eyes and think about the 2023 draft a year from now, what do you think is going to be the first thing that pops into your head? Isabel, same question will be to you after this.
The first thing that pops into my head is how poised and excited some of these prospects were. And I think just really knowledgeable about the WNBA. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is that I think the Minnesota Lynx have laid down a foundation for their future, which is really exciting. Those are the two things that come to my mind.
And segment one is going to be all about the teams that really help themselves the most. Segment two is a little more vibes. We're going to talk to Isabel more about what it felt like out on the floor. She's working on a big piece for us about that as well. We're also going to talk about what some of the players felt like in that aftermath, and we got to talk to them backstage during the media availability. So, Isabel, for you, what do you think it'll be a year from now?
Yeah, so I came to the draft last year, and it's in the same spot it was last year. And to be honest, it felt extremely similar to how it felt last year. And I think that's what I'm gonna, besides like, you know, the excitement of people getting drafted, obviously Abby Myers was drafted, go Tigers. So those things I think will stick with me, but more so than that, I think it's just the lack of change that we saw between last draft and this draft in player experience, in media experience, in guest, just like the whole 9 yards. Basically everything remained the same.
Yeah.
And I think that to me speaks volumes about, you know, the little things in the WNBA and the little things that the league still needs to maybe get right.
It is striking, right, that because of the trajectory of women's sports right now, when the NBA is the same this year as last year, you don't really think twice about it because there's an understanding, establishment, the idea that, okay, well, you know, this is going right. But standing still feels a little bit like going backwards, it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, I think especially in the context of everything we saw at the NCAA during March Madness, I mean, I think it was just a little underwhelming to see so much growth in one area and complete stagnation.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and we're going to get into that a little bit more, of course, in segment two as well. But, you know, to Jackie's point, the Minnesota Lynx absolutely helped themselves. I have to start with where the draft started, and that is the Indiana Fever. And, you know, Lynn Dunn knows more about basketball than essentially anyone I know. And so I am not surprised that she had what I believe is a very successful draft. But 117, to be able to go at 1-7-13 and to my mind, go out and get the best post in the draft. I don't think that's a particularly contentious belief that Aliyah Boston is a game changer at both ends of the floor. Aliyah Boston and her ability to rebound, Aliyah Boston and her ability to defend, Aliyah Boston and her ability, quite frankly, to shoot at all three levels. We didn't see her take a lot of threes, but it's something she's capable of doing. You see her ability to shoot free throws, and I'm very bullish on her ability to be enough of a threat that you're not going to be able to leave her alone out there. And, you know, I again, the comparison that I saw that has made the most sense to me is Tim Duncan. And I think there is a lot of Tim Duncan in her game when you think about the impact that I think she can have. But you just pop right through from there, from 1 to 7 to Grace Berger. And Grace Berger is to my mind, the best pure point guard in this draft.
Howard, what's so funny about that, and I'm sorry to interrupt
No, please.
you, was when we were talking to Grace afterwards, I asked her, I said, so what did you value the most in taking your COVID year? And she said that she learned how to play point guard much better. And so you're saying she's the best pure point guard in this draft, yet she wasn't really a pure point guard?
And again, that is Ali Patberg's fault. Ali Patberg, who played at Indiana for 37 years. And so that was, kind of blocked Grace Berger or anyone else being able to play the point. But listen, that's what she did, right? Like, Grace is more than just Walnut's companion, right? Her dog. That she is also a great student of the game. And so she went into this extra year. And it's the reason why she came back. Was she said, I remember talking to her about this last fall. I need to get stronger getting to the rim, and I need to develop my point guard play. And if you watch her throughout Big Ten play, the Big Ten, with apologies to the SEC, I think the Big Ten was the best conference in basketball this year. And I'm sorry, Gabrielle Lewis, but it's just how I feel. And so when you look at what she was able to do in the Big Ten to develop her ability to find teammates, I just think she is a remarkable pure passer. She became more comfortable taking the three. She didn't take it with regularity. She didn't need to. Not on that team. That team had so much other shooting that, again, I thought best point guard in this draft. And you just think she is such a change of pace from Destiny Henderson. There's a lot that makes sense for the two of them together on that roster. I don't think it's one or the other. I think you'll end up seeing Lynn carry them both. But then you jump out onto 13 and you jump on, and I'm going to triple check it, but I am 90. Yeah, I am correct that it was Taylor Mikesell. I mean, tell me she didn't get, other than Maddie Segrist, the best pure shooter in this draft. I mean, I guess Abby Myers is in that conversation too. But the point is, at 13, to be able to go and address these three critical needs, and it's not like she's the only shooter on that Indiana team. I am very bullish on Lexi Hall. I'm so curious what she's going to be. But I just think 1-7-13, wow, look at what Lynn Dunn did here tonight. And again, it's surprising unless you take into account like everything else Lynn Dunn has ever done in her career. So that's my big thing. And so just as we're continuing with this segment, Isabel, do you have a team that you think helped themselves the most? Because I know Jackie wants to talk Minnesota, and I want to hear her talk about that too.
I think you have to give kudos to Seattle. I think they did a really great job, especially given, how kind of up in the air things were for them heading into today. I think they really did the most with the picks that they had and picked up some folks that maybe dropped a little bit too low. I'm thinking Jordan Person in particular is a great pickup for them.
Jordan at 9.
So yeah, I think they just knocked it out of the park with the picks that they had, and I'm excited to see where they go from here.
I have been all in on Maddie Williams since she was a freshman at Oklahoma. The idea that you can get her with the 6th pick of the 2nd round, Maddie Williams to make that team. And I think she's going to impact that team. I am really curious to see her. But all right, before we get to segment 2, Jackie, let's talk Minnesota Lynx. They started at 2 with Diamond Miller. Where is she from? What state?
New Jersey.
Oh, good to know. What else did Minnesota do?
So besides taking Diamond Miller, the Lynx, they went with, at 12, they went with Maya Hirsch, who if you all follow all of what we do at the Next Hoops, our analysts Hunter Cruz and M. Adler have been very high on Maya Hirsch for a long time. I can tell you that there were many GMs who were also very high on Maya Hirsch.
Minimum 5, I'm willing to say.
Yes. And in addition, so that was their first round.
Yeah.
That's
Already a win.
What you get in that first round is you get a foundation piece in Diamond Miller, and you get someone who can really help you in the future. And Maya Hirsch, I believe, is she 19?
She's really young.
Yeah.
She's really young. And to me, what it says is that Cheryl Reeve and Claire DeWellius have embraced where the Lynx are and who they're going to be. And it's just to see them embracing a rebuild. I don't know. It just makes me feel really glad.
They're not going to force it. They're not going to force it.
They're going to. So there's a phrase that a lot of executives use when you talk about process, and they use this phrase called doing it the right way. And so I've always, in my career covering this sport, have thought, okay, well, what does it mean to do it the right way? The Lynx are doing it the right way.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And we can't go without talking about who they got in the second round in Dorka Juhas, which is, and Bree Beal. Oh my God, I almost forgot they got Bree Beal too.
Bree Beal, yeah.
Oh my God.
Even Taylor.
And they got Taylor Soule in the third round.
Yeah, no, it's a very happy day in Minnesota. It's going to be a competitive training camp, which is something that Cheryl Reeve always wants. It's very important. And, Bree Beal is going to push people on the defensive end. It is going to be fascinating. Listen, the jury's out. Can you get enough shooting out of Bree Beal in order to make the defense play at the next level? I remember the New York Liberty having a similar conversation about Dee Richards a couple of years ago as well. And they've been able to do that by and large. So, again, Dorka Juhas, I know was someone you were extremely high on. I was extremely high on. Thought she had first round talent, still do. And we're going to talk a little bit about her. We're over time, and I want to get to our break. But we'll talk about Dorka, and it's a good segue to talking about her in segment 2 because she had some really interesting things to say. But first, we are going to talk to you guys about Game Time. Now, Game Time is more than just a place where you can go get tickets. It's not stressful at all. I went out when they became a sponsor and I downloaded the app. You can see it at gametime.co if you use the computer, but I would suggest using the app because it's not just that you can see the tickets, you can get them last minute, you can see exactly where you're sitting. They give you that viewpoint right when you go to get them. They have flash deals so you can save suddenly, last minute tickets. It's easy to find and buy for any kind of event in your area. They have baseball, they have WNBA, they have James Taylor, you name it. So you don't have to plan months in advance. There are deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Here's what I'm telling you to do. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, as they do everywhere. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Dorka Juhas, right? Tall, a wonderful reach, an ability to block shots, an ability to shoot threes. In what universe is she not a logical WNBA player? I don't know. Isabel, are you as high on her as we are?
I think I'm higher on her as a center.
Okay.
But I think there's also plenty of room for her to grow, and I think that Minnesota is a great place to do that. I mean, obviously, Cheryl Reeve coached plenty of great forwards in the past. I think she's helped people become more versatile throughout their careers as well. So I think that being in Minnesota is going to be a great chance for her to grow and to potentially blossom into a real quality and mainstay WNBA player.
Cheryl also, she doesn't just like people who come from UConn, although
Right.
she does.
Sure.
Cheryl also likes posts that can pass and that can facilitate. And it's not, for Dorka, it's not just about, pure passing. It's more about her decision making. And oh my gosh, like her ability to create a chemistry with other guards that she's playing with. I mean, I just remember back when AZ Fudd was playing out of her mind before she got injured, watching, Dorka understand where AZ's spots were and just know at the drop of a hat where she was going to be, how the two of them work together in the two-person game in the pick and roll. I just think that's the type of big that Cheryl Reeve really likes.
It's a great point. It reminds me of another 16th overall pick that Cheryl Reeve made, and that is Jessica Shepard, who did a lot of those same things as a great passing big whose assist percentage routinely was above 20% throughout the season that she played for Muffet McGraw at Notre Dame. It very much feels like a good fit and something that can help Minnesota. Look, we haven't really ever seen Cheryl Reeve with a rebuilding team. I'm curious to see how much progress is made, but that coaching staff is remarkable. They have terrific player development folks. And I'll tell you one other thing. A lot of times, WNBA teams especially are afraid to rebuild because you say, are the fans going to stick around? And so maybe the biggest reason why they can rebuild in Minnesota is what Carly Knox has done on the business side over the past decade and has created what I believe is loyalty. And I guess they'll see that, right? And we'll find out. But I believe that they're able to do it. And clearly they do too. And it's going to be fascinating to see the way in which that happens. Isabel, I want to take a bit of a turn here because I want to talk to you about what the room feels like after the first round, and something you wrote about really beautifully last year. And everyone should go look up that story because it really captured it. And but just tell me about what you feel like is like the shame of it, the downside of it, and how that needs to change.
Yeah, I think the draft is one of the most exciting events of the year. People look forward to it all throughout the college season. Yeah. There's plenty of media raucous about it, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah. And I think people are excited and they deserve a product that delivers on that excitement. For me, having been here the past 2 years, I'm not sure that the way that it's set up right now, where not every player is invited in person, where names aren't called unless the player is at the draft. I'm just not sure that that's in service of that mission of really serving the players' excitement and celebrating their careers in college as well.
Do you think Barclays would be a good place for it? Do you think that setup is where we're at? Are we that far along? I guess is what I wonder. Because I would just say I don't envy the W having to figure this out, figuring out what size event is your draft when things are changing so dramatically. And you've had to do it within a couple of COVID years where you couldn't even have in person. So it's complicated. But is that your answer? What do you think?
I think there's a set of owners in New York that would be more than happy to make that happen. And I'm sure that's true. And I think too that when the incoming classes for 2024 and 2025 are going to be as game changing as they're going to be,
which they are.
These couple of years before, I think this is just not going to work when you have classes with Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark, AZ Fudd. This setup is just not going to cut it, in my opinion.
Listen, Jackie, you were at the Empire State Building with these draft picks in the morning.
Yes.
I remember, and I was sharing this with you off the air, I was there, it was a couple of picks who went up to the Empire State Building, and now it was everyone. And now you had, instead of a couple of media, you had a whole bunch of people from the media. it ain't that big up there. You know, like if you remember, there was a documentary about it called Sleepless in Seattle, and there was barely enough room for Jonah and his bear Howard and Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. And that was at night when they were getting ready to close. Jackie, do you think we are at a point where a lot of these practices, and it's a wonderful moment, need to change?
I do. I mean, to speak to my experience this morning, if that's what you'd like me to
Yeah.
do, we were very squished, and we were being herded like cattle around this around the Empire State Building, and it was we were squeezing. It was very hard to get content and to capture the moment. I mean, I tried the best I could. You all can go on the
You
next.
got great stuff, but you're a pro's pro. It's not so easy.
Howard, you give me too much credit. I mean, it was hard to get solid photos, and there were people that were arguing and saying, no, you took my spot. I mean, imagine this. There are people arguing to get, into a spot. You go from 3 people to people arguing to get a spot.
Sounds a lot like the Knicks locker room in past years. So but I digress. Well, I want to talk a little more about this, and I want sort of final thoughts for us to be able to talk about it. But first, I'm going to talk to you guys about Prize Picks. Now, Prize Picks is your daily fantasy game where you get the opportunity to bet essentially against yourself. Okay, you pick 2 to 6 players, and you basically decide, are the player projections right? If they are, and you pick more or less, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. But again, it's not you competing against other people. It's you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. And that's right, I'm talking to you, the Locked On Women's Basketball audience, because it's not just NBA, it is WNBA. It's not just men's college basketball, it's women's college basketball. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy, safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Get with the program, other 20 states. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. So as we think about 2024, and I'll start with this, and then I will kick it over to each of you. The one thing you hope to see most, I think, Isabel, your reporting has had me think the thing I most want to see is a WNBA draft show that involves every pick having her moment. That's what I'd like to see, 1 through 36. I love so much of what's being done already. And it's what can you build on, and I want all 36, especially because you get beyond that first round, and a lot of those players are not going to make the team. They're just not. It's just where we are as a league right now, where they are as a league right now, excuse me. And so that moment needs to be special. That moment needs to happen. Jackie, what about you when you think of 2024? What is it you want to see most?
Well, I mean, we had quite a long and interesting press conference with Kathy Engelbert. We covered a lot of topics, and I asked a question about what we are about to witness, not only 2024, but in 2025. If you listen to an episode of this podcast from a week and a half ago, I talked about something called super drafts. And so I asked Kathy Engelbert, with these super drafts that are coming, how are you going to be able to house the talent that is going to bring a lot of viewers to this league? And her answer was, we like where roster spots are right now. The roster expansion is going to come through team expansion. But if we're not going to get team expansion by the time these super drafts come to be, do we live in a universe where Haley Van Lith doesn't make a WNBA team? Or do we live in a universe where Angel Reese, let me just,
Angel Reese will make the team.
No. But people, I mean, our draft analysts, Em Adler and Hunter Cruz, they're not as high on Angel Reese when it comes to her versatility.
They'll get there.
But let me just say this: it's Angel Reese was spoofed on SNL in. I know this may sound like a bit of a
digression.
And yes, a digression and an oxymoron,
Sure.
but she was spoofed tastefully in that women's basketball is being treated just like how men's sports is being treated when it comes to making fun of it.
It wasn't the miserable experience that has, on the rare occasion, SNL has referred to the WNBA in the past.
Yes.
It was a delightfully marked improvement. I agree. So to your point, yes, more roster spots. I don't think a lot of people like where they're at in terms of roster spots right now. I don't know that that's an answer that would gain a lot of support within the women's basketball community. Isabel, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is taking care of the players that are already here. I think you can see that through what I've worked on in the past year. It's clear to me that the further down a roster you go, the kind of more precarious things get. And this is the point. The WNBA draft is where you kind of induct the next class of people that are potentially going to have to be in that position.
True.
And as with rosters not expanding, with the pay kind of stagnating where it is, that hard salary cap doesn't make things any easier. That number of players who are going to be in that position steadily increases every year.
Yeah.
I mean, the number of regular full season contracts that we had from 2019 to this year completely plummeted. I think it was like 25% decrease over those 3 years, which is crazy to think about.
You did great reporting on this, I know. Yeah.
And I just want all of those players who, even if they are going to end up in that position, even if they are going to have to learn to find income in different ways, the draft is the time where they are a WNBA. They're in the community.
Right.
And they should have the ability to feel that. And I don't think that the way that things are currently set up achieves that goal. And so that, I think, should become the core of what the draft is about. Because right now, I've had to sit through 2 number 1 draft picks be picked with half of a room not paying attention to them being picked. And I think that's a little bit too much.
Can I offer just a counterpoint? Because I remember when you and I were, or when we were all talking about this last year, I then voiced your same thoughts, and I received some pushback from the league, and I think it's interesting to put in, I guess, another perspective. And so my understanding from the league about just sort of how this night flows and how it's not just a draft, but it is more a party for the women's basketball community. That is a vibe that they want.
Right.
They want it to be a party for the women's basketball community. They want, the food to be really good for the people that are there, not just the players and the coaches, but, there were even some like influencers that were there, that were invited, that were enjoying the moment. And so I think the league struggles with, and I think, Isabel, you've said this quite well, the league struggles with what they want the draft to be. And sometimes those 2 goals don't necessarily come together.
But maybe what that means is then it cannot be those 2 things at the same time. And maybe the league has grown to a point, and enough people want to celebrate women's basketball as a party, that there needs to be a draft and there needs to be a party, and it needs to be 2 different things.
Interesting.
Does
that happen in other sports?
It does. But Isabel, what were you going to say?
Yes.
Yep.
I just don't think it can be that if you're not celebrating everybody who is going to be in the WNBA. It's not a women's basketball party if you don't have women's basketball players, the people who you are ultimately celebrating.
It is the core mission of a draft. I agree 100%. Well, I want to thank you all for listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. A huge thanks to Isabel and Jackie, always, 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 and especially tonight for everything that we've had. I do want to just bring something up that you guys ought to know about, which is that, like, yes, obviously women's basketball is the center of everyone's mind, but now that you've made Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen, there's another league that you can focus on ever so briefly and make it your second listen. It's game to game. I'm sorry, I wrote it down. I didn't want to mess this up. NBA. It's the National Basketball Association. And, all over Twitter, and you've been seeing all these people are saying, oh, now that the national championship is over, there's no basketball until May 19th, and look, that's unfair, right? It's unfair to view just one side of basketball. There is an NBA. They've got like a play-in or something. I don't know what it is, but like good for them, right? The NBA is a league up and coming. I really think that they can do some great things. And kudos to Locked On for making the NBA a focus. Every moment, every performance, every result, Locked On game to game covers every game from across the nascent NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Isabel, obviously the New York Liberty are the most important team in New York, but are there any other, does the NBA have a team in New York? One, I assume, at the most, but.
Unfortunately, they have two.
Oh, is that right?
But I'm pretty sure both of them would lose to the Sacramento Kings anyway. So
that is very interesting. Very interesting. The Kings, of course, are the little brother team of the Sacramento Monarchs. So follow game to game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Delighted to be with you. As always, tomorrow's show, we're going to hear directly from the draftees themselves. Until then, thank you for making us your first listen every day. Isabel Rodrigues, Jackie Powell, I'm Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful night.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.